Now, baby, before I even start, let me tell y'all something. When a woman like me stays quiet, it ain't 'cause she weak. It's 'cause she's waiting for the right time to speak her truth. And when that time comes, whoo, you best believe it hits harder than Sunday morning gossip after church service. My name's Mae Henderson, but most folks around here just call me Miss Mae. 63 years young, with more stories under my belt than the good Lord probably cares to hear again. I live down in Savannah, Georgia, where the air stays thick, the biscuits stay buttery, and folks don't always say what they mean, but you can feel it right behind they smile. My son Derek, bless his handsome fool heart, went and married this little thing named Tiffany Monroe. Pretty girl, city bred, always had her nails done like she was auditioning for a commercial. But that mouth, child, that mouth could peel paint off the walls. I told Derek the day he brought her home, son, that girl's got sass written all over her like a warning label. He just laughed, said, Mama, she just outspoken like you. I said, boy, outspoken and disrespectful as cousins, and that one got both sides of the family living in her. But you know how sons are. They don't see no wrong till it's knocking on their front door with luggage. Now, I tried my best to stay out their marriage. Lord knows I did. But when Tiffany started coming in my house, the same house I raised Derek in, and treating me like I was some old maid with nothing left to offer, that's when the story really begins. It started one Thursday evening, hot and sticky like Georgia always is in July. I was sitting on the porch with my sweet tea, just watching the world slow down a little bit, when Derek and Tiffany pulled up in that shining new SUV she made him buy. She stepped out wearing this little pink suit, heels clicking like she was walking on God's own stage. Hey, Miss Mae, she said with that sugar-dripping voice she puts on when she's in front of Derek. We brought dinner. Now, that woman don't cook, so I already knew we brought dinner meant we picked up takeout. But I smiled anyway, said, well, ain't that nice of y'all? Come on in before the mosquitoes start asking for y'all's blood type. Inside, Derek tried fixing the table while Tiffany sat herself right down like a guest in my own kitchen. She started scrolling through her phone, talking loud about some influencer she followed. I just kept stirring my collard greens, minding my peace. But then she said something that made that wooden spoon stop midair. Mama Mae, she said all casual like, don't you ever get bored just staying home all day? I mean, if I didn't have a job or any real hobbies, I'd lose my mind. She laughed, like she just told a joke at my expense. Now, I ain't one for quick temper, but my daddy always told me respect ain't something you beg for. It's something you teach. I looked her dead in her face and said, baby girl, I've been raising families, cooking meals, keeping homes, and burying heartbreaks before you even learned to tie them little designer shoes of yours. Don't mistake my peace for purposelessness. But she just smirked. I didn't mean nothing by it, Miss Mae. I just think people your age should, slow down, rest. Let the younger ones handle things. The younger ones. I wanted to tell her that the younger ones couldn't handle half the storms I done danced through, but I stayed quiet. Not 'cause she was right, but 'cause I was already planning how to handle this properly. Weeks went by, and her little comments got bolder. She'd come over, rearrange my kitchen like she owned it, complain that my furniture was too old-fashioned, even had the nerve to tell Derek that maybe I should move into a smaller place, something easier for her to manage. Her to manage. Baby, I've been paying bills and running this household since Ronald Reagan was in office. Ain't nobody managing Miss Mae. But that wasn't even the worst of it. One Saturday, Tiffany threw a little barbecue in my backyard, said it was for Derek's promotion at the firm. I didn't mind, long as folks cleaned up after. But halfway through, I heard her talking to one of her friends loud enough for everybody to hear. She said, "Yeah, I keep telling Derek his mama just sitting on all that space doing nothing. She's sweet and all, but honestly, she's kind of useless now, just taking up room." The crowd chuckled, and that's when the laughter stopped sounding like music and started sounding like a knife. Now, I didn't say a word that day. I just smiled, served my cornbread, and let her think she'd won something. But in my heart, I said, "Lord, if she wants to call me useless, let us see just how much this useless woman can do." 2 days later, Derek left on a business trip to Chicago. Tiffany came by to check on me. I could tell she just wanted to snoop, see if I'd gotten mad. "Oh, hey, Miss May," she said, all fake sweet again. "You good? Hope I didn't say nothing the other day that upset you." I said, "Oh, no, baby, I'm fine. I've been thinking, though, you're right. Maybe it's time I rest. Maybe it's time I hand over some of my responsibilities." Her eyes lit up like Christmas lights. "That's what I've been saying. You deserve to take it easy." I smiled slow. You know, Tiffany, you always say you want this house to look more modern. Why don't you come by this Friday? I got something special I want to gift you." She clapped her hands like a child. "Aw, Miss May, that's so sweet of you." And right then, I knew that girl had no clue what was coming her way. That Friday, I baked a whole batch of peach cobbler, lit some candles, and set the table like it was Thanksgiving. Tiffany showed up right on time, dressed like she was going to brunch with the mayor. "Oh my God, Miss May, this looks amazing," she said, sniffing the air. "You didn't have to do all this." I smiled and said softly, "Oh, it's my pleasure, baby. You called me useless, so I figured I'd do something useful before I retire from it all." She froze. I didn't mean." I cut her off with a raised hand. "Sit down, child. Let's eat before the food gets cold." We ate in silence for a minute, her eyes darting around like she expected me to start shouting. But I didn't. I just smiled, calm, collected. Then I slid a brown envelope across the table. "This here," I said, "is my gift to you." She looked suspicious, but opened it anyway. And the color drained right out her face. Inside that envelope were papers, official, legal, bound. The deed to the house. And one more letter, written by me, signed by my lawyer. I said, "You wanted this house modernized, right? Well, it's all yours now, but don't get too comfy, 'cause starting Monday, the county's gonna start inspecting the property. You see, I listed this whole place for historical preservation." Her jaw dropped. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, leaning back slow, "you can't change a damn thing in this house without the city's permission. Not a window, not a wall, not even a curtain rod." I sipped my tea and smiled sweet. "Congratulations, baby. You own a piece of history now, and a lifetime of paperwork to go with it." Tiffany just sat there, speechless, like she'd swallowed a brick of regret. And for the first time since she married my son, she called me something she should have said a long time ago. "Miss May," she whispered. "I'm sorry." I looked at her, smiled real gentle, and said, "Oh, I know you are, sugar, but that's okay. Useless folks don't hold grudges. We just teach lessons." And right then, I swear I heard my mama's voice whispering through that Savannah air. You did good, girl. You did real good. Now, I ain't the kind of woman to start drama, but baby, I sure don't mind finishing it when somebody brings it to my doorstep. After that day in my kitchen, when Lila called me useless, like I was some old broom collecting dust, the air in my house felt thick. You could cut it with a butter knife. My son Derek tried to pretend nothing happened, walking around like everything was sweet, but I could see the guilt all over his face. He knew his wife was wrong. He just didn't know how to fix it. And me? I was sitting pretty, playing my cards close. I wasn't about to yell, scream, or act out. Oh, no, honey. Auntie Mae don't do mess. She plans it. That night, as I sat in my recliner, my cat Biscuit snuggled on my lap, I stared at the family picture on the mantel, the one we took just last Christmas. I was smiling, wearing my best red dress, holding the grandbabies tight, while Lila stood there with that half smirk she always got when she's pretending to be polite. The more I looked at it, the more I realized something. That picture was a lie. It showed a family, but it didn't feel like one. And baby, I'd been patient long enough. So I made myself a cup of chamomile tea, to calm my nerves, and started thinking. Not about getting even, no. I was thinking about getting smart. 'Cause see, revenge is best served not cold, but clever. The next morning, Derek came down with his tie half done and coffee spilling out his travel mug like usual. "Mama, you okay? You been quiet lately?" he asked, looking half scared, half guilty. I smiled sweetly. "I'm just fine, baby, just reflecting on some things. Old age and wisdom tend to have long conversations in the morning." He chuckled nervously. "Lila didn't mean what she said, Ma. She just got upset." I sipped my tea and let him twist in that silence. You could see it on his face. He wanted to apologize for her, but he didn't have the backbone to stand up to her. That's the thing about love, sugar. Sometimes it makes fools out of strong men. That afternoon, Lila came home from work. Click, clack, click, clack. Her high heels echoed through my hallway like she was thumping on my patience. She didn't even say hi, just rolled her eyes when she saw me knitting in the living room. Ugh, baby, if looks could slap. I put down my yarn, leaned back and gave her the calmest smile I can manage. "It sure is, sweetie, especially after working 40 years straight, raising 2 kids, buying this house, and paying it off before you were even born." She blinked. "I didn't mean it like that." "Oh, I'm sure you didn't. You never do." She huffed, grabbed her purse, and stomped upstairs. I could hear her muttering under her breath, calling me extra and dramatic. And that's when it hit me. I didn't need to raise my voice or throw a fit. All I needed was a plan. That night, I called up my cousin Evelyn. Now, if you ever met Evelyn, you know that woman can dig up information faster than the FBI. She once found out her neighbor's husband was married to 2 other women before the man even changed his Facebook status. She's got that kind of energy. "Eve, baby, I need a favor." "Oh, Lord," she laughed. "What that girl done this time?" So I told her everything. Every word, every smirk, every insult. Evelyn got quiet. Then she said, "May, it's time you remind that woman who she married into. You still got that property in your name, right?" I smiled slow. "You know I do." "Then play the long game, sis. Teach her what happens when folks forget who helped build their comfort." That's when I knew this wasn't gonna be petty revenge. It was gonna be poetic justice. See, what Lila didn't know was that I still owned the deed to the house. Yep, my name was the only one on it. I'd let Derek and her live there rent-free after he lost his job 2 years ago. I wanted to give them a chance to get back on their feet. But honey, she walked around here like it was her palace and I was just the help. So the next day, while she was at work, I pulled out my old filing box and dusted off that crisp paper. My signature was right there, shining under the sunlight from the kitchen window. And I whispered to myself, well, 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 look who's really useless now. A few days later, Derek came home talking about how Lila wanted to remodel the kitchen. Knock down a wall, change the counters, buy a big fancy fridge. And I just smiled. Oh, that's cute, I said. But before y'all do all that, I need you to tell her something. What's that, Ma? This house, the one she keeps calling hers, it ain't. Not until I say so. He froze. What? I told you, read the deed, baby. My name's the only one on it. I let y'all stay out of kindness, but kindness don't mean foolishness. Derek scratched his head, nervous as a cat in a dog park. He said, I'll talk to her. Oh, I bet you will, I whispered. That weekend, Lila came prancing in with a catalog full of dream kitchen ideas. And baby, when I tell you the look on her face when I told her she might want to pause those plans. Excuse me, she said, her voice sharp as broken glass. I just smiled sweetly. You heard me, darling. This house still belongs to me. And before you call me useless again, you might want to remember whose roof you sleep under. She laughed. You're bluffing. So I handed her the deed, right there. Her smile dropped like a hot skillet. You're kidding. Nope. Been in my name since 1988. You've been living in my house, eating my food and calling me useless? Oh, sweetheart, that's bold. She didn't know what to say. Derek looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. I leaned back, folded my arms, and said, now since I'm so useless, I figured I'll give y'all a little gift. Her eyes narrowed. What gift? I smiled wide. A new address. You've got 2 weeks to find one. You could have heard a pin drop. Lila's jaw hit the floor. Derek stammered, and I just sat there calm as Sunday morning. Because here's the thing. Sometimes people mistake your kindness for weakness. But when you show them your backbone, suddenly they remember who you are. As she stormed off, I whispered to myself, Lesson 1, darling, never bite the hand that built your home. And baby, that was just the beginning. You ever notice how the quiet right before a storm feels heavier than thunder itself? That's how my house felt the next few days. Too clean, too still. Even the wind outside seemed scared to make noise around here. Vanessa had gone back to her usual self, strutting around in her little silk robe, talking loud on her phone about some girls' brunch like nothing ever happened. She'd glance at me when she thought I wasn't looking, that same smug little smile curling on her lips. But what she didn't know is that I had already set the table for my own kind of brunch, one she'd never forget. Now see, when you've lived long enough, you learn that revenge don't always come loud. Sometimes it come quiet in a bow-tied box with a smile. That Monday morning, I baked biscuits, not because I wanted to, but because that kitchen needed to smell like peace. I even hummed a little tune from church just to keep my spirit calm. My mama used to say, "Don't let no fool pull you down into their foolishness." But baby, this wasn't foolishness. This was justice. Marcus walked in rubbing his eyes, still half asleep. "Morning, Ma." "Morning, baby. You want coffee?" "Yeah, sure." He sat down looking uneasy. "Ma, listen, Vanessa didn't mean what she said the other day. She's been stressed." I stirred that coffee slow, watching the cream swirl like a tiny hurricane. Stress don't give nobody permission to disrespect their elders, Marcus. "I know, Ma, but no buts," I said softly, handing him his cup. "You picked her. I accepted her. But don't ever expect me to let her walk on me in my own home." He sighed. "Can we please not make this a war?" I smiled, that calm, patient smile that hides a plan. "War? Oh no, baby. I don't fight wars. I host lessons." He looked confused, but I didn't say another word. Some things ain't meant to be explained. They're meant to be experienced. Later that day, I made a few calls. To Miss Loretta down at the Old Beauty Salon, to Pastor Green's wife, and to my sister Bernice, the three biggest mouths this side of Atlanta. When I tell you those women can spread news faster than wildfire on a windy day, ooh-wee, I knew exactly what I was doing. "May, you sound too calm. What you planning?" "Oh, nothing special. Just throwing a little appreciation dinner for family. Thought Vanessa could use a chance to shine." Loretta laughed. "Child, whenever you get polite, somebody's in trouble." I grinned. You know me too well. By Wednesday, word had spread. Folks thought I was throwing a mother's appreciation dinner. Flyers got printed. Bernice made sure it looked official. Even Vanessa's mama called to ask what she should wear. "Oh, just something comfortable," I said. "We gonna keep it classy." Now, Vanessa loved attention more than she loved breathing. So the moment she heard dinner in her honor, she lit up like Christmas lights. She started running around buying dresses, getting her hair done, ordering expensive wine she thought would impress the crowd. Every time she passed me, she'd smirk like she had won. "Thank you for finally seeing my effort, Mama Mae," she said one night, painting her nails. I smiled. "Oh, baby, everybody's gonna see your effort real soon." Saturday night came. The house was spotless, candles lit, music soft. I made my famous honey cornbread, fried some catfish, and cooked collard greens so good they could make a grown man cry. Folks started arriving. Cousins, neighbors, church friends. The air was full of laughter and perfume and secrets. Marcus was nervous, I could tell. He kept whispering to me, "Ma, please keep it light." I said, "Oh, it's gonna be light, baby. Just you wait." Vanessa made her entrance like she was walking a red carpet. Sparkly dress, heels clicking, fake smile wider than her patience. She kissed me on the cheek. "Thank you, Mama Mae. This means so much." I looked at her all grace and sugar. "Oh, sweetheart, it's my pleasure. Tonight's about gratitude." Everyone sat down. I gave a little speech, short, sweet, but sharp enough to slice through pride. I began. "I called y'all here tonight to celebrate family. Now, sometimes family don't always see eye to eye, but when God gives you a home, he expects peace in it. And sometimes peace needs a little reminder." I paused. The room went still. "Vanessa," I said gently, "you brought a lot into this home. Energy, style, new ways of doing things. But sometimes, honey, we forget that new don't always mean better. Sometimes wisdom hides in wrinkles and hard work." She smiled awkwardly. "Thank you, Mama Mae. That's sweet of you." "Oh, baby, I ain't done," I said, reaching under the table for a box wrapped in gold paper. "I got you a gift." The whole room leaned in. She looked surprised but excited. "For me?" "Mm-hmm. Go on, open it." She tore through the wrapping paper and froze. Inside the box was a shiny little plaque that read, "To my favorite useless lady, may you never forget who fed you." The room went silent. Then a few folks chuckled just a little, nervously. Vanessa's face turned red. "Mama Mae, what is this supposed to mean?" I said calmly, "Hope, baby, it's a reminder that sometimes when you call somebody useless, you forget who taught you half the things you think you invented." I smiled and turned to the guest. "Now let's eat before the cornbread gets cold." Vanessa stormed out after dinner, of course. Marcus followed her, embarrassed and quiet. But I just sat there, drinking my sweet tea, watching the candles flicker.
See, that night wasn't about humiliation. It was about balance. Sometimes a person gotta see themselves through the mirror of their own words, and I just happened to hold it up for. Later that night, when the guests were gone, Marcus came back inside. "Ma, that was harsh," he said softly. I looked up. "You think so?" "She's crying." I nodded. Good. Maybe her heart finally opened enough to feel something. He didn't say nothing, just sighed and kissed my forehead before going upstairs. When the door closed, I whispered to myself, "Lesson 1, respect ain't given, it's taught." Then I picked up that empty gift box, folded it neat, and smiled. Because, baby, the gift she regretted wasn't the plaque. It was underestimating me. Now, baby, if silence had a weight, that house would have caved in. After that dinner, you could have heard a pin drop between me and Vanessa. And trust me, I had pins ready just in case. She didn't say a word to me for 3 days. Not a good morning, not a thank you, not even that fake little laugh she used when guests were around. She'd glide through the kitchen like I was invisible, and I let her. Sometimes silence is the best sermon. But what Vanessa didn't realize is that when a storm quiets down, it's only loading up for another round. Marcus tried to keep peace, bless his sweet, clueless heart. "Ma, you should apologize too. Meet her halfway." I gave him that look, the one every mother's got, the kind that freezes a grown man in his tracks. Apologize? For what? Teaching manners with a side of cornbread? He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I'm just saying she feels humiliated." "Well, maybe humiliation's what happens when you play queen without earning the crown." He didn't argue. He just kissed my cheek and left for work. But later that day, I started to feel it. That little tug in my chest. The kind that comes when you know you might have gone too far. I sat on the porch, watching the wind stir the magnolia leaves, thinking about my late husband, Frank. Lord, that man could humble me with just a stare. He'd say, "May, you don't win every battle by winning. Sometimes you win by letting the other fool trip on their own pride." And wouldn't you know it, just as I was thinking that, Vanessa's car pulled up. She stepped out looking sharp, tight jeans, fresh curls, shades on like she was going to war. "Mama Mae," she said, her tone icy but polite. "We need to talk." I nodded. "Then come on inside. Tea's already steeping." We sat across from each other at the table, same spot where the whole mess started. I could feel her trying to hold her anger like soda about to pop its top. "I've been thinking, and I don't appreciate being made fun of in front of people. That was cruel." I nodded slow. Cruel is a strong word, baby. I didn't mock you, I mirrored you. Her jaw tightened. You embarrassed me. And you disrespected me. Seems we both got a taste of what that feels like. She folded her arms. Marcus said you planned that dinner just to make me look bad. I leaned in. If I wanted to make you look bad, sweetheart, I'd have just let you talk longer. Her lips parted. She wasn't expecting that. But let me tell you something, I continued, softening my tone. You walk into my house calling me useless after I raised the man you married, fed him, clothed him, prayed him through every dumb decision he made, and you think you're gonna disrespect me over decor and dinner plates? Oh, baby, no. You picked the wrong grandma to play with. Her eyes watered, just a little. I didn't mean it like that, she whispered. I was frustrated. Frustration don't erase words, I said, sipping my tea. They stick to people like gum under a church pew. For a moment, it was quiet again. Then she said something I didn't expect. You know what? Maybe I did judge you. Maybe I thought you were just sitting around doing nothing. But you've got this way of making everyone scared to cross you. I chuckled. That's called boundaries, baby. You should try it sometime. Later that evening, I caught her outside talking on the phone, her voice low but sharp enough to slice through the wind. She was saying, I'm done being disrespected. I'll show her who's useless. Now, I don't like to eavesdrop, but sometimes God places your ear right where it need to be. And when I heard her say she was gonna get me out of this house, I knew this little dance wasn't over. That night I prayed, not for her, but for patience, because patience is the weapon that wins wars no one sees coming. A week later, Marcus came home looking confused. Ma, did you tell Vanessa she couldn't handle money? I looked up from a crossword. I sure didn't. Why? She said you've been talking behind her back. I laughed. Baby, I don't whisper lies. I announce truths. Turns out, Vanessa had started telling folks I was too old to manage the house, trying to convince Marcus we should sell it and move somewhere smaller. I guess she figured if she couldn't beat me in the kitchen, she'd come for the walls around it. Now that was her biggest mistake. See, this house wasn't just wood and bricks. It was legacy. My daddy built it. My babies grew up in it. Every inch of that place had sweat and love baked into it. So I played it cool. I let her think she was winning. But what Vanessa didn't know is that I already had something up my sleeve. I'd been talking to my lawyer friend, Miss Charlene, about setting up the deed. And let's just say I had a plan that would make sure nobody, not even my own son's wife, could take what wasn't hers. That Sunday, I went to church early, looking sharp in my cream hat and pearl earrings. Pastor Green preached about the danger of hidden pride, and I swear he was looking straight at me. After service, Miss Loretta came up smiling. May, I heard you and Vanessa patching things up? I winked. Oh, we patching something all right, but it ain't fabric, it's character. When I got home, Vanessa was sitting on the couch browsing listings on her laptop. Look at this, she said sweetly, turning the screen toward me. Condos downtown, great view, open kitchen. We could sell this place and move somewhere new. I smiled slow. Oh, that's nice, baby. You should go ahead and pack since that's your dream. She blinked. My dream? What about a Marcus? Oh, he can visit. But this house, it ain't leaving this bloodline. I just made sure of that yesterday. Her face froze. What did you do? Oh, nothing much. Just had the deed updated. Name's on it now as a trust. Can't be sold without my say-so. Guess I'm more useful than you thought, huh?
She stood there, jaw tight, trying not to lose her composure. I just smiled and walked past her, humming that same church hymn from chapter 2. That night, as I sat by the window with my tea, I thought about all the noise, pride, and foolishness that had filled my house these past few weeks. Then I whispered to myself, Lesson 2. When folks try to write you off, just make sure your name's still on the deed. And baby, that's on generational wisdom. Now, baby, I've seen a lot of storms in my life. Hurricanes, heartbreaks, and house fights over who forgot to close the fridge. But nothing shakes a home when love gets caught between loyalty and pride. After that deed business, Vanessa didn't come for me right away. She got smart, real quiet, real sweet. Too sweet, like tea that hides poison under sugar. She started cooking dinner before I could get to the kitchen, washing Marcus's clothes, smiling every time I walked in the room like we was best friends in a Hallmark movie. But that woman had a plan, and I could smell it stronger than her coconut hair oil. See, she had figured out what I love most, my son, and that's where she aimed her next shot. One evening, I overheard them talking in the living room. Marcus said, "Baby, my mom didn't mean to hurt you. She just old-fashioned." And Vanessa, Lord, she said it so soft it almost sounded innocent. "I know, baby. I just feel like she doesn't want me here. She wants me to feel small." Marcus sighed. "Ma's not like that. She's protective." Protective or possessive? She won't even let us have our own home. I froze behind the hallway corner. Now, don't get me wrong, I ain't the type to spy, but when your family peace hang by a thread, sometimes you gotta know who's pulling it. Marcus said, "We can talk to her. I'll handle it." And Vanessa leaned her head on his shoulder, whispering low, "I just want a marriage without your mama running it." That night, Marcus came to my room, knocking gentle like he used to when he was 5. "Ma, can we talk?" "Of course, baby, sit down." He sat at the edge of my bed, eyes tired. "I love you and I love Vanessa, but this tension is too much. She thinks you're trying to control us." I smiled slow. "And what do you think, Marcus?" He hesitated. "I think maybe you could back off a little. Let us make our own space." I stared at him. My boy, my pride, my reason for half the wrinkles on my face. "Marcus," I said quietly, "do you know what it's like raising a man alone? Every bill, every late night fever, every broken shoe and broken heart. You know how many nights I stayed up praying God would make you wise? Now here you are telling me to make room for a woman who called me useless." He looked down. "She didn't mean it. Stop saying that." Then I breathed deep, regaining my calm. "Sound, she don't respect me. And if she let her rewrite what's right in this house, she won't respect you next." He rubbed his face, standing up slow. "I just want peace, Ma." "Then teach your wife how to make it," I said softly. Days passed, but that conversation hung over us like smoke that wouldn't clear. Vanessa started doing little things, whispering when I entered a room, rolling her eyes at my advice, accidentally forgetting to save me a plate. Oh, she was playing her game well. And Vanessa, poor thing, was caught in the middle, torn between blood and vows. One night, he came home late. I was sitting on the porch, lighting citronella candles. He looked beat. "Ma, Vanessa's thinking about staying with her mom for a bit." I raised an eyebrow. "She can do that. Ain't no locks on the door." "I don't want this, Ma. I don't want to choose sides." "Then stop letting her draw the line. This ain't about sides. It's about sense." He looked like he wanted to say more, but his phone buzzed. "Vanessa." He answered quick, voice soft. "I'm coming, baby." Then he left. And just like that, the house went quiet again. But this time, it wasn't peace. It was the sound of distance. That next Sunday, I went to church alone. Sat right in the second pew, same spot as always. But Pastor Green's sermon hit different. He talked about forgiveness not being weakness. It's God saying, I trust you to be the bigger person. And baby, that word bigger stung. Because for all my pride and pain, maybe I was letting this fight take up too much room in my heart. When I got home, the house was quiet. I found a note on the counter. Staying with Mom for a few days. Don't worry about dinner. Vanessa. I folded it neat and sat down, the silence feeling heavier than ever. Maybe I had won the battles, but was I losing my son in the war? That night, as I looked at the empty table, my heart softened. Maybe God was testing me, not to see if I could win, but if I could let go. So I went to my room, opened my drawer, and pulled out a small box. Inside was an old photo. Marcus as a boy, missing teeth, standing in front of this same house with me behind him, holding him up. I whisper, Lord, if I gotta lose a little pride to save my family, then show me how to do it without losing myself. The next morning, I decided to call Vanessa. Not text, not message, call. She answered cautious. Hello? It's me, baby. I just wanted to say, you don't gotta run from me. We both been wrong. And maybe it's time we stop trying to prove who's right. There was silence on the other end. Then she said softly, I didn't expect that from you, Mama Mae. I smiled. That's 'cause you still learning who I am. We talked for 10 minutes. Awkward, but real. And for the first time, I heard her voice without venom. After I hung up, I felt lighter. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Sometimes when peace finally walks through the door, pride slips in right behind it, wearing new shoes. Now, baby, every storm runs out of rain. But sometimes, after the thunder quiets down, the world don't ever look the same again. That's where I was, somewhere between peace and payback. 2 weeks after that phone call, Vanessa came back to the house. She didn't bring flowers, but she did bring that stiff smile she wore to church when she didn't mean her God bless you. Marcus was happy though. He hugged me so tight, I almost forgot all the mess between us. Almost. We sat at the kitchen table, me, Vanessa, and my son, like a family again. The kind of quiet family that eats together but don't chew too loud. Vanessa, I said, my voice calm as warm honey. How's your mama doing? She's fine, she said, not looking up. Good woman. Always had something to say about my biscuits, though. Marcus laughed, trying to break the tension. All right, y'all, can we please not start? Oh, we ain't starting, I smiled. We finishing. Vanessa finally looked up, her eyes sharp. Finishing what exactly? I leaned back, sipping my tea slow. The lesson I promised you. Now, before y'all start thinking I'm the kind of woman who keeps score, let me tell you something. I don't keep score. I keep receipts. And that morning, I had a few ready to cash in. See, while Vanessa was gone, I made some adjustments. I transferred the deed of the house into a living trust in my name with one condition. When I pass, it don't go to Marcus or Vanessa. It goes to their daughter, Lil Jasmine, because I might not trust her mama, but I'll never punish a child for grown folks' foolishness.
Marcus blinked when I told him, "Ma, what does that mean?" "It means this house gon' stay in the family. But I'm skipping a generation, sugar. You and your wife can build your own dreams somewhere else. This one's Jasmine's." Vanessa's mouth fell open. "You can't just—" I raised a hand. "Oh, I can, sweetheart. I just did." Marcus rubbed his forehead. "Ma, you didn't need to." "I did need to," I said, "'cause respect ain't something you give after somebody dies. It's something you build while they still breathing." Vanessa stood up, arms crossed. "So that's your gift, punishing us?" I smiled, slow, steady. "Baby, I ain't punishing you. I'm protecting the only person here who's still innocent. You called me useless, remember that? Well, useless people don't build legacies. They don't buy houses. They don't raise men who know love. And they sure don't think ahead when others too busy playing petty." Marcus stayed quiet, the kind of quiet a man gets when he realizes his mama ain't just talking. She teaching. Vanessa sat back down, eyes glassy. "So that's it? You get the last word?" I chuckled. "No, baby, the last word is yours. What you do next, that's what gon' echo." The weeks after that talk, things changed. Vanessa didn't snap no more. She started bringing me coffee in the morning. Sometimes we even watched TV together. Not as friends yet, but as two women learning to share air again. And Marcus, he smiled again, laughed again. He said, "Ma, I feel like I got my family back." And I told him, "No, baby, you built it back. You just had to learn how to protect it." One afternoon, I was sitting on the porch when Vanessa came out. She looked nervous, but her tone was soft. "Miss Mae," she said, "I owe you an apology. I didn't understand what you were trying to do. I thought you wanted to control everything." I didn't say nothing, just let her talk. "But now I see you were trying to keep us from breaking everything, especially Marcus. I said some ugly things and I'm sorry." I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time I didn't see my enemy. I saw a scared young woman trying to grow into the shoes life gave her too soon. I smiled, gentle but firm. "Baby, apology accepted, but remember, words ain't the proof. Actions are." She nodded, eyes wet. "You're right." And I swear right then I saw a little piece crawl back into this family's bones. Now don't get me wrong, Auntie Mae don't forget nothing. But forgiveness, that's the real revenge. 'Cause when you forgive somebody who expected you to stay mad, baby, you take away their power. So that's what I gave Vanessa. The gift she'll regret forever. Not the house. Not the money. The gift was me, still standing, unbothered and blessed, after she tried to tear me down. A few months later, Jasmine, sweet little thing, came running up with a crayon drawn. It was me, her mama, and her daddy, holding hands in front of the house. At the top, she wrote, "My family." Vanessa smiled when she saw it. I could tell it hit her deep. She whispered, "Guess she already knows what matters." I leaned down and kissed Jasmine's head and said, "She sure does. And that's the real legacy. Not this house, not the name on the deed, but the love that finally learned how to stay." And baby, that's how Auntie Mae's story ended. Not with a scream or a slap, but with silence that healed. 'Cause sometimes the sweetest revenge ain't watching somebody lose. It's watching them grow and knowing you were the storm that taught them how to stand.